energy, to give us the strength, to give us the courage to change this trajectory. Dr. King talked about the importance of breaking our silence. But I want to add to that the importance of going beyond the fear. He talked about fear. He talked about the fact that that wasn't easy. So this kind of thing is not easy in a time when against this. But the dominant powers are really the ones that's controlling this. And the only way that we're going to change it is these kinds of gatherings. I'm going to, without any further ado, I want to call our guest speaker up, but I think he walked out for a minute. So I'll just continue to remind us of why we're here and why it's important. And I hope that those that have not visited the exhibit will do that. I see our honored guest is back. And I just want to let you understand the significance of the person that we have among us this evening. Reverend Sauls is the founder of the Beloved Community Coalition in South Africa. He's a trailblazer, organizer in pursuit of social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. His transformational work on bridging communities and advocating for equitable belongings and Ubuntu is manifested in his unwavering support for the Palestinian people and his unapologetically voice for human dignity. He is an ordained Methodist minister. He was a youth organizer, and today he's organizing youth to continue the kind of work that he's doing. That's how I met him. He had brought a group of activist young people from across this country. And they came to visit the museum, and that's how we met and learned that in addition to what we're doing here with our beloved community, which centers us across the globe, we're connecting with this global beloved community movement that Reverend Sauls is a great leader of. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring my brother, Reverend Kelvin Sauls, up.
I thought you were taking the podium away from me. I'm like, wow. Sawubona. You can say Sawubona too. Sawubona. Sawubona is a greeting in one of the 12 official languages in South Africa. It's the Zulu language. And That simply means it's a general greeting, but it's actually a very, very intentional greeting, which simply means I see you. I see you. So it's not just any greeting, such as what's up, even though I'm cool with that one, or how y'all doing, right? You know, that's what I learned when I came to Mississippi the first time. Right? They said, now you thought you from the South too. They said, so you need to learn how to speak like folk from the South. I said, what do you mean? They said, just say how y'all do. You know, and so they taught me all that stuff, vittles, and I'm telling you. So now I say to folk, I'm from the global South, right? You know, in terms of that. But it is a greeting that facilitates affirmation of a person's humanity and dignity. So when I say Sawubona to you, I'm actually letting you know that I see you, right? You exist. You are somebody. And so it's good to be here just to say to the International Museum of Muslim Culture, Sawubona. We see you. And to say to each one of you, Sawubona, and to say from Jackson to Gaza and Rafah and the West Bank, Sawubona. We see you. We see you. I came here from the Bay Area, went to celebrate the 100th birthday of my godmother. And she wore me out because she had a birthday party and she had an after party, y'all. I thought I had it going on, but this weekend she showed up. And we had a great time with her, just a wonderful time. I mean, it was just so life-giving, you know, to hang out with her. I walk faster than her, but when she gets on a scooter, she's way faster than me. She just go. And I checked into the hotel in San Francisco right next to the Tenderloin, right? And then she took out a whole map. You know, she said, okay, let me just show you some places. It's okay, good. I'm looking at the map and she says, this is Chinatown, and you know it's Lunar New Year, and Year of the Dragon, and they had a big march on Sunday, and you know, a lot of stuff going on. You know. She says, that's the financial district. And then she explained the financial district. And then she says, this is Union Square. You explain Union Square where the Macy's is, you know, all that. And then she said, and this is the Tenderloin. She says, the Tenderloin is where all the homeless people are. Right? And then she said this. It was very, very disturbing. She said, there's nothing to see there. There's nothing to see there. And my heart just dropped. Right? That we've rendered our sisters and brothers who are unsheltered so invisible that the concierge person at the hotel had the gall to say to me, there's nothing to see. Even though I know that Light Methodist Church built a 17-story therapeutic housing complex in the Tenderloin. When Cecil and Jan Williams led a liberative ministry with the rejected, the disenfranchised, and the poor in the Tenderloin. The largest United Methodist Church on the West Coast, guess where it's located? In the Tenderloin. 80% of its members are houseless and homeless. And then there are lawyers, you know, doctors, others who are there. You know the movie The Pursuit of Happiness? Guess where that movie was shot? And where that guy that Will Smith plays went to church, and who was the person that invited him into rehabilitation? Trevor Williams, Clyde Methodist Church in the Tenderloin. She took out the map, showed me all the places. And when she got to the Tenderloin, she said, "Sir, that's where the homeless people are. There's nothing to see there." Even 100 years before 1948, it appears as if that was the vision of some Zionists of wanting to say, this is Palestine. That's where the Arabs, right, the Muslims are. And there's nothing to see there. And here we are. In 2024, my sisters and my brothers, today marks the gruesome milestone of over 40,000 people killed. Mostly women and children. Over 500,000 people on the brink of starvation. Okolo shared with us of what happened just today. So I believe that double genocide is taking place. One is taking place with bombs and bullets, and one is taking place in slow motion by depriving people of bread and flour. Because you see, famine and poverty is just genocide in slow motion. And so tonight, I am privileged to be here at the International Museum of Muslim Cultures and to be part of this exhibit, Journey to Understanding. And I want to thank the entire team, this visionary team. This, I know when they envisioned and prepared for this exhibit, they didn't even know that the Thursday night that they were opening, that Wednesday, South Africa will be at the ICJ presenting a case against Israel. And the Friday after that Thursday, right, the Israeli government was going to try and defend itself. I was on the phone. We have Thursday morning calls, right, if I can get up. You know, because we're 2 hours behind y'all. But I'm the one that set the time, right? And I said to the team, I said, do y'all realize what's going on this week? The affirmation of your word, the confirmation of your word, the global solidarity of your word. Who could have planned this way? Yes, we are in tears. Yes, we are in pain because of the second Akbar that's taking place, right? But you've been set up to lead the company. And this is what this exhibit is all about. I'll say a little bit more about that later on. But tonight I wanted to just share with you around the theme beyond ceasefire, bridging into beloved community. Beyond ceasefire, bridging into beloved community. It is no secret, my sisters and brothers, that we are caught up in an inescapable cycle of what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called, and I call it the trifecta of trauma and terror. Right? And he called it the three evils. Okay? For our time together, I want to add a fourth one to it. Because I do believe that what's happening right now with our sisters and our brothers, with our siblings, with our king in Palestine is a microcosm of what's been going on around the world that everybody was trying to sweep under the rug. I'm simply speaking of the add to the three evils that Dr. King talked about, and just reframe that we're finding ourselves for such a time as this, caught up in an inescapable cycle of settler colonization, military occupation,
economic exploitation, and environmental degradation.
and that is why the world is up in arms. Because I've seen this before. I've known about this. And so clearly, the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and all the other allies that has made a conscious decision to be complicit in the genocide that's been perpetrated on our sisters and brothers, on our king, on our siblings. They've clearly decided that military might is a much better option than moral might. And you and I know that history will tell a whole different story. But you see, I'm not surprised at those who are supporting what is going on with our sisters and our brothers. I mean, just ask our Namibian sisters and brothers what the Germans did over there. Come on, somebody. Just check in with our sisters and brothers in Kenya to see what the United Kingdom did over there. Come on now. Just check in with our indigenous folk here in the United States to see what the United States has done here. I just stopped by to tell you that we are dealing with not just three evils now, but I dare say we're dealing with four evils now. And that's what's happening right now, sisters and brothers, is a microcosm of global settler colonization, global military occupation, global economic exploitation, and global environmental degradation. It's playing out right in front of our eyes. And I think somebody said something like, the emperor has no clothes on. And so really what South Africa invites us to do by taking the bold step, by going to the ICJ and presenting that case, is really, who's calling me? All right. That's my Nigerian sister. We have, when I finish here, I gotta get back to the hotel because we have a forum with Barbara Lee. Time zones work miracles. But as I was saying, we find ourselves in the midst of what's going on. And clearly, there is no movement around ceasefire, right? A couple of days ago, the president talked about something might happen this weekend, then he backtracked, right? Then he calls, after the day, he calls those at the negotiating table and he says, what happened today is just a sign of how critical and how urgent it is that the work that we are doing. I was sitting there saying, no, Mr. President, what happened today is a sign of how urgent it is to end the occupation. And so I dare say that what this exhibition is inviting us into, sisters and brothers, is to boldly begin to look beyond ceasefire. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there are already plans being drawn up as to what's going to happen after the fighting. And the plans are showing that what's going to happen, that's what's been planned, especially you see who's running around, right? Okay, right, it's the director of the FBI. He's the person running around talking about what needs to happen after, right? You know, this traumatic and atrocious acts that are taking place, right? Since when did the FBI become an expert in nation building? All right. You see? And the plans right now, sisters and brothers, what's being revealed is that the plans is not looking at a authentic, real two-state solutions, but instead the plans that are being looked at is really an apartheid state. I've seen that before. And we've seen how the maps change. Right? And I invite us to see how it is that in our resistance to what's going on, that we don't lose sight of how we need to begin to reimagine. A Palestine beyond ceasefire. Because you see, we have to come with our plans to the table. Because right now, plans are being shopped around and folk arms are being twisted, right? And deals are being made and aid are being promised. And who knows, probably military aid, is being facilitated so that folk can support an apartheid state. And we are to say to that, hell no. My favorite song in the Color Purple, hell no. But it's inviting us to see how we, yes, cry tears, but cry tears of hope. That helps us begin to realize that we have to be the ones to envision what needs to be, what needs to become beyond the ceasefire. Because the ceasefire in itself is short-sighted. Any ceasefire without an end in the occupation, my sisters and my brothers, will be short-lived because it is short-sighted. What are we trying to say? Folks should go back and live in the largest open-air prison in the world and let Israeli soldiers, which is just the U.S. militia out there, right? Did you know that? Yeah, the Israeli Defense Force is the Western militia in that region. So when folk throw around this militia and that militia, we ought to say that that's a glorified militia of the West. So that they can continue to go around and put their knees on the necks of Palestinian children. That's what a ceasefire means. Going back to pre-October, what was the date? 12? 7? That's like saying, that's like saying after COVID, we got to go back to normal. And you and I know there were a lot of epidemics before we got to the pandemic. That means when the pandemic is over, we just go back to the epidemics. Right? So I really want to encourage us. And I think this exhibition provides us, sisters and brothers, with an opportunity to see how we can move beyond a ceasefire and boldly bridge into beloved community. This exhibit, sisters and brothers, is doing it for us in a variety of ways. The first way it helps us to do that is to deal with the challenge of narrative injustice. The second way in which it enables us to move beyond the ceasefire is it helps us, to deal with spatial injustice. The third way it helps us is to deal with religious injustice. I'm grateful that I had the ability to see it before. It was described to me, but to actually see it is very, very powerful. Because it shows us, sisters and brothers, that beyond, if we are to get to beloved community, we have to realize that any religion that is used for the degradation and the destruction of human beings is a religion that must be decolonized. And just like we said in South Africa, that Christianity has to be decolonized from apartheid, which was the ideology and the theology. We must begin to say that Judaism must be decolonized from Zionism. That's the religious injustice that's going on. And if we walk through this exhibit, it shows the multi-faith and multi-religious culture that existed before 1948. And it shows after World War II the rise, you see, of a strategy to destroy that culture. So in his last book, Dr. King writes in that last chapter, his last book is Where We Go From Your Chaos of Community. The last chapter is called God's Beloved World House. Dr. King begins to realize that it's not just enough to win our human rights in the United States. If that human rights, sisters and brothers, that contributes to global settler colonization, military occupation, economic exploitation, and environmental degradation. Dr. King said that is short-sighted. If I say I'm a man, now we say Black Lives Matter, it ought to be Black Lives Matter everywhere and for everyone. And it ought to be not just I am a man, right? But to really begin to include in that feminism and womanism, equality and equity, right? And so this exhibition is inviting us on a journey not just of resistance, but on a journey of reimagination. How can we begin to reimagine Christianity without Christian Zionism? How can we begin to imagine Judaism without Zionism? It's possible, because we did it in South Africa, right? When the Reverend Dr. Ellen Busak, who was part of the Dutch Reformed Church, becomes the president of the International Alliance of Reformed Churches, organized the world to declare apartheid as a heresy. That results in the Dutch Reformed Church being kicked out of the International Alliance. And when that happens, my sisters and brothers, it resulted in a delegitimization of the apartheid regime. That was the beginning of the end. Because the theology of apartheid was undermined and disrupted. It's not destroyed yet, because there are still some folk in South Africa, right? And you know what folk do. You know, they just kind of go around the corner and regroup. You see? That's why freedom is a constant struggle, yo. There ain't no vacation for us. Right? Because injustice is a constant threat. So our bridging into beloved community is to deal with the fact of religious injustice. And we have to do it on an ongoing basis. Because of the fact that religion has been used in so many places by so many different people to discriminate and destroy, to divide and demean. Can we reimagine Judaism without Zionism? Well, that's what the Beloved Community Project is all about. By showing the connection between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, right? And elevating it, as Dr. King talks about it, towards God's beloved world house. The second one is dealing with this whole piece around spatial injustice. Spatial injustice simply is the forceful removal and displacement of people, right? That has happened all over the world, right? And this country knows all about it because of the human trafficking that took place through the Middle Passage into enslavement. That's the spatial injustice. In fact, before that, what happened here was the Trail of Tears. So even before 1619, a lot of other stuff was going on. You see, that paved the way for all of that to happen. Check this out. 1948. So apartheid becomes the law of the land in South Africa. In 1948, then Akbar is kicked into high gear, in Palestine. In 1948, the Japanese in the United States are being displaced into concentration camps. Sisters and brothers, even evil is connected. Injustice is connected. I got off the plane, got on a call. It took me a while to get to my bag. I get to the baggage, and the baggage not there. I said, okay, it's probably with the Delta staff person, you know. I said, okay, let me find, you know, the Delta person. Found the Delta person, right? And we started talking. And you know, the staff that was supposed to pick me up keeps calling me. You know, I'm looking for my bag. And so we out of the blue, he says, oh, so where are you from? I said, well, I travel from LA. He said, yeah, man, LA, man. I'm upset with LA, man. I said, why? He said, man, I go to visit my kids in LA, they never come back to visit me, man. I'm upset with LA. I said, well, you know, I don't blame him. I said, that's, oh, no, I'm just joking. You know, and then we talked a little bit more about, you know, what's happening. We talked about land, the affordability of land here, and, you know, and then he said, but sometimes you got an accent, man. I said, yeah, I'm originally from South Africa. He said, South Africa? I said, yeah. He said, you know what I've noticed? You know, now this is the guy who deals with the bags, right? That means oversized bags and bags like mine, you know, I'm too late to come and get it off the conveyor belt, and he has to take it into the office and wait, right? For whoever's bag business to kind of show up, right? You see? He says, you know, a lot of South Africans have been coming to Jackson lately. I said, oh, really? I said, I bet you the white South Africans. He says, yes, it is. See? I said, why do you think they're coming back? He says, they're coming to look for land. My heart just, I said, oh, Lord. And then I said to him, I said, but you know, the white nationalists of South Africa, they've always been connected with the white nationalists in Jackson. That's a fact. Because they share notes, you see. I mean, they call each other. That's why the Willie Lynch letter was sent around, right? The how-tos. You see? Right? So something is happening. I don't know what yet. But clearly, right, there's some kind of resettlement that's taking place that white South Africans and white nationals are involved in. But then again, you know, as I was told the last time I was here with my young leaders, you know, the way the eagle on the state capitol faces south is because it means the South will rise again. And these are probably the same people who wants apartheid to rise again in South Africa. Spatial injustice. My sisters and brothers, how do we reimagine that? And so the fight for spatial justice, you see, is a fight that goes on, whether it is forcefully removing folk from the continent to the Middle Passage here, or whether it is displacing folk right now by way of gentrification. Spatial injustice, you see, is what's happening right now with our sisters and brothers, our siblings in Palestine, because they've been moved. And then now there's a plan for Rafah, you see, because of spatial injustice. So in addition to religious injustice, this exhibit demonstrates that we can re-envision spatial injustice because it tells the story of the kind of place Palestine was before 1948. I saw in there a photo that says Palestinian Airways. Good God, can you imagine that there was a Palestinian Airways? That ought to be the Sankofa funds, right? That ought to be the Sankofa funds, y'all. Because you see, the colonizer always wants you to think that there was nothing here before they showed up. That we was nothing before they showed up. Right? We became who we are because they showed up. Reaching towards beloved community is reaching into religious justice and reaching into spatial justice and saying that my security and my safety doesn't have to be the expense of your humanity and your dignity. Period. That Palestinians do have a right to exist, especially if it was their land before. I went to Palestine a couple of years ago with a delegation of the United Methodist Church. David Wildman was there, and we were staff together at the General Board of Global Ministries. David Wildman was one of the delegates who went with the South African delegation during Christmas for that pilgrimage, right? To say we need to go and see about our people. Frank Chikani was there, the former General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. Right? I was one of the leaders of that delegation. I signed up for the option to stay in a Palestinian village. And the village I was assigned to, the people I was assigned to, the family I was assigned to, the community I was assigned to was Wadi Fakir. I'll never forget my visit. My 24-hour visit in Wadi Fakir. It brought tears to my eyes, pain in my heart. It made me realize that I never experienced what I experienced during those 24 hours in my black township inside. Because there was a settler community above. And they were living in the village. And so throughout the night, floodlights would shine into the village. They had to get thick window drapes so they can at least sleep at night. Loud speakers, right? In Hebrew, were being played into the village. Another thing that came into the village was the sewage from the settler community. How do you maintain your dignity, your humanity in the midst of this? How do you reimagine how you could be in this place? Heartbroken I was. I sat there and I rewrote Psalms 121, which says, I lift my eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help. I rewrote that psalm and I said, I lift my eyes to the hills of my help. Lord, I need your help. And after we explore how they maintain humanity, they said the following. They said, well, you know, Brother Kelvin, sewage is good fertilizer. bearing fruit. Dates. Honey. Reimagination. We've organized a group called Friends of Wanifakin to support their economic development. Because they said, whatever comes down the hill enables us to produce more than what we need. We can even go and take it to the market and sell it.
That's it.
Beyond ceasefire, bridging into beloved community. He says we can't stand the smell, but people love what we sell. Spatial injustice, religious injustice, divorcing Zionism, Judaism from Zionism, understanding that if we are fighting against gentrification in Jackson or in South LA, we cannot help but to fight that gentrification is going on in Gaza and the West Bank right now. It's the same game, y'all. Settler colonization, military occupation, LAPD, Jackson PD, NYPD, Capitol Police, economic exploitation, racial capitalism, or as Trevor Lawson puts it, plantation capitalism, environmental degradation. I believe I'm crazy enough for Polo to believe that this exhibition is empowering us to reimagine narrative injustice. You see, because you see that the Zionists media tentacles has a group, right, on almost every major news station in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Germany, in Canada, in Australia, right? To tell or to control the narrative. Right? People question 40,000 people being murdered and killed, right? You need to verify those numbers. A report comes out about the Palestinian Aid Agency, and without verification, the Secretary of State and the President of the United States, without asking for verification, without asking for evidence, without saying we will investigate this, aid's being cut off. Narrative injustice. Now, the report's being revealed. that's happening all over the world, in so many different places. It is said that in any political campaign, you got to make sure you deal with three things. It's been said. I'm not a political strategist. I just read stuff. Right? One, the candidate has to speak, right, to a people's aspirations. The candidate has to speak to hope, and the candidate has to speak to the people's fears. Well, I'm gonna insert a new one. And maybe some people who are smarter than me already did this, right? The candidate also has to speak the truth. Right? Because last I checked, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The flip side of truth is freedom. The flip side of truth is liberation. And the flip side of deception is destruction. It's said that the first casualty of any war is truth. Oh, my sisters and brothers. We find ourselves during these consequential times in an inescapable cycle. Of ongoing settler colonization. Monroe document. Military occupation. Africa. Guantanamo. Economic exploitation. We must protect our interests in the Suez Canal. So that the ships can freely move. Right? We got a big issue with people crossing over. But we ain't got no problem with products crossing over. The people just following the products. Because they used to plant it and now they can't. Because U.S. corporations own the farms now. Environmental degradation. Good God Almighty. How dare we think we have the moral voice when the world gathers and talk about environmental degradation. And we're the ones trying to have the last say. That's why I love the Prime Minister of Barbados. She just be telling them off. She's just like, you think you're God, but even if you were God, I'm not afraid. Good God Almighty. Right? I mean, all the work that just came out of the conference that just took place around, feminism, womanism, right? When the global South, feminism, womanism, the global South gathered. Good God Almighty. I dare say that this exhibition invites us to believe and build beyond ceasefire, so that we can reach into beloved community. Because beloved community is saying that everybody can equitably build. Beloved community is saying no to religious injustice. Beloved community is saying no to spatial injustice. Beloved community is saying no to narrative injustice. And it's saying yes to humanity. Yes to end the occupation. Yes to take out that open air prison. Yes to reimagination. So I hope that this sacred space will become for you a place of resiliency, ongoing resistance, but most of all, reimagination. Because that is the destination that moves us beyond the colonizer, beyond the oppressor, beyond the discriminator, beyond the deceiver. And he's saying, Ubuntu. I am because you are. And because you are, therefore I am. If that's a little too hard for you, at least we can say someone. I see you.
Alhamdulillah. That's all praises are due to God. Let's just sit with that for a moment. This is a conversation. So we've had our brother, Reverend Sauls, to start that conversation. So we want to get your feedback. But before we do that, I want to call up our beloved sister, Sophia Omari, the mayor's chief of staff, to welcome our brother, Reverend Sauls. Just a brief word. Very brief. She works so hard. She had to be here.
Yes, I did have to be here. And I do want to welcome you back to Jackson. And your message was so powerful and enlightening. And I want to thank you for that. And you said what had to be said, but you affirmed all of us in our humanity. And we appreciate that so much. So, welcome to Jackson. I know that this weekend is going to be a very powerful one here in the city due to the exhibit and the hard work of Ocolo and the Al Turks and everyone associated with this International Museum of Muslim Culture. It is indeed a jewel, and every year you continue to outdo yourselves. So it's amazing. So thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll actually get to hang out a little bit with you due to a mutual friend. So.
Thank you. opportunity. Yes. Sister.
So I'd like to ask our speaker if he would to be more specific on the concept of reimagining as it relates to the Palestinian situation. We now are in the 4th generation of the occupation and genocide of Palestinian people. This stuff did not start in October, it started a long time ago. It's just, you know, in the news now, but it's been a slow trickle for 4 generations now. So when you talk about this reimagining, can you give me some specifics about how we do that, particularly given that the United States stood alone and vetoed the ceasefire resolution, and everybody else in the United Nations said we should really do this. This is a good thing. The U.S. said, no, well, you know, we, you know, got a hang up on this or that. So, you know, I agree with you that we have to rethink what we're going to do, but the question is, this is the 4th generation, not the 4th decade.
I think that's a powerful question. The work of reimagination is a deep work. It's a deliberate work. It is a collective work, and it's a courageous work. Collective because we can't do it by ourselves, right? But do it, we must. And what I'm proposing in the work that I'm doing around reimagination is drawing from, you know, the land of my birth, right? I was born on the south side of Johannesburg in a township called Kliptown. It just means stone town, right? Kliptown was one of the bustling places for resistance. The freedom fighters and our freedom leaders would frequent several, you know, communities. Kliptown was one of them, so Firetown was another one, you know, District 6 was another one. And all these in 1948, they were also, it's funny, they were also multi-religious, multiracial, multi-class communities, right? You see, that was anti-apartheid, you see. Because remember, apartheid is about keeping people apart, amplifying their differences, you know, give them a false narrative about each other, and then teach them to hate each other. That's really the concept of apartheid. It's a specialization in otherization, really, right? In 1955, in Kliptown, a significant event takes place without TikTok, without Facebook, without MySpace. Some of us had a MySpace. Without AOL. Oh, nice. So those who laugh, yeah, I know I'm with y'all. All right. On that day takes place a gathering of the people for the ratification of the Freedom Charter in South Africa. Right? Now, that place is called the Albertina and Waters Sisulu Square in Kliptown. Right? But the Freedom Charter was an alternative constitution for the new South Africa. In 1955, right? We got democracy in 1994. Right? So the work of reimagination is saying to the oppressor, talk to the hand. In your face. We might not get this now, but we know what we want. And guess what? You included in it. Right? Because the opening of the Freedom Charter says South Africa belongs to all who lives in it. So oppressor, we even better than you. Why are you oppressing us? I'm thinking about you. You don't want to kick you out. Right? But we want equitable belonging. See? And it's outlined there. So that's what helped me. As I reach points of depression, as I reach points of giving up and throwing in the towel, I just say, in 1955, my ancestors, I wasn't even born there. Yeah, they already re-envisioned, right, what South Africa could be. So reimagination is an invitation to exploration, right? And reimagination fuels our resiliency. You see? So that's one way that he helped me to do. The other way that I realize around this is for us to connect the dots and embrace intersectionality. So when I was at my church in San Francisco, randomly I get invited, just like randomly. I stumbled over the International Museum of Muslim Cultures, right? Randomly. It was an accident, y'all. Right? It wasn't on our schedule, or call yeah, we probably drove by twice or 3 times, right? Roaming the city with our young people, right? And we had one Muslim young leader who said, Pastor Sauls, he said, oh, wait, we can find some Muslims, right? That's what you said. Can you, and an operations manager of the People's Advocacy Institute, right, said, of course, we are here. Is that sound familiar? We are here. Right? The rest is history. You see? So I'm in San Francisco, I get randomly invited to come and screen a movie that PBS was going to play called Rebel in the Moon. It's about Manzanar concentration camp. I'm like, man, what? I said, I'm from South Africa. What do I know about this? I mean, and my buddy Ethan, right, who works for the Fellowship of Reconciliation, for a long time, he says, oh man, I put your name down, man. I think we can handle this, man. I said, man, what these names and what? And you get the movie to watch the movie, and then you're going to be in a panel the night when it premieres, and you will be in a panel. So on the panel was a Japanese-American pastor, Michael Yoshi, friend of mine, Ethan Flagg, Anglican, person, myself, United Methodist, and from South Africa. I watched Rebel in the Moon. I started crying. It reminded me when I had a part-time job at Lake Junaluska, not too far from the Cherokee Reservation. And one night we went to a play, to watch the play. It was a display of the Trail of Tears. I cried that night. I said, that seems familiar. What happened to indigenous people here happened to my people. In 1948, Manzanar takes place. In 1948, apartheid takes place. In 1948, and the apartheid takes place. We've got to connect the dots. That's why I'm talking about global settler colonization, global military occupation, global economic exploitation, global environmental degradation. Because we are all inextricably linked. That's why Nelson Mandela said, until the Palestinians are free, our freedom is incomplete. If all of us believe that, we'll be storming the White House right now. If all of us believe that, that eagle on the state capitol facing south will be gone. That's why King said we only begin to love when we think beyond our individual. You see? It's a collective thing, so we got to connect the dots. You know, this is intersectional work, right? Right? But we got to meet each other at the intersection of oppression. Yes, it's painful, it's hurting, yeah. But what I've discovered is that pain is a path of new possibilities, and the new possibilities turn that intersection of oppression into an intersection of affirmation, and that affirmation to the discovery that it can be an intersection for liberation. So knowing that Manzanar happened in 1948 didn't paralyze me, y'all. I'm like, it didn't just happen to me. Wow. So, I believe reimagination, I'm just trying to say, invites us into some radical sibling solidarity. You heard me say the whole night, our Palestinian siblings, our Palestinian sisters, and it's not them, they. Them is us. That's what one Palestinian told my colleague, Joe Daniels, the pastor of every time at this church when he visited me. He said, hey, I just want to let you know, in case you didn't realize it yet, we are y'all. Over here, we are. That's all he said. Joe was like, yeah. Until he went through that crossing in Hebron. You see? So, that's the reimagination. It's deliberate, it's deep, but I'm telling you, it's so liberating. Oh my God. You know, it's, and that liberation is an invitation to go even more deeper. The Sunday school song I learned in South Africa growing up was deep and wide, deep and wide. There's a fountain flowing deep and wide. You will never understand the width of the fountain until you're willing to explore the depth of the fountain. This is deep work. We've done it before. It's been done. We're standing on the bold and broad shoulders of folk who've done it before. We don't have to start from scratch. So that's how I offer, it to us. And I know there are others who may have some even more specific examples, but that's kind of how that's what helps me, do this transnational work and this intersectional work, and just allow.
Okay. Raffia.
Sorry, it's kind of to bounce off what she's saying a little bit too. I was going to ask him to break down apartheid and Labour Church, but you kind of touched upon it. But our universe is based on our thoughts and perceptions. The world was designed based off your thoughts. So when he says reimagining it, it's not believing the picture, the narrative that they're painting. See it, because we call things into being. We're very powerful. And it's just no happen chance that we all in this room, really this room should be filled. This is a very powerful event. I thank the beloved community for hosting this. But the message was for us, every last person in this room, take this effort. Don't let it go in one ear and out the other. Really think why. Why are you sitting in this room? What can I do? And people want to think that we're powerless. But if us right now, we can change this. We imagine, and call into being. I speak life for around the world, because this is all of our struggle, as he said. We're all in this together, and we tend to focus on our individual lives. We get distracted, but it's not randomly that we're getting distracted. Why, after all these years, this has been going on for decades, why now do they want to put it in the news? Why all of a sudden do you all of a sudden care? That's the questions we should be at. Connecting the dots. You're really powerful. You're really connecting the dots, you know, and I'm just so grateful to be here, to be a part of this. And it seems hopeless sometimes because we see all these deaths that keep happening. But I just don't want us to get discouraged. We can make a difference just by calling it. When you pray, really speak, you know, power, life to the situation. Don't keep receiving the negativity that they want to tell you this is going to be. You know, more people going to die. It's hopeless. You can't do anything. Don't receive that message. You can change it, you know? So I just, like I said, I really appreciate it. I wanted him to break down the part, but I'm really touched me. I appreciate everybody.
Wonderful. Actually, in Islam, and I say religion, because Islam is about just not a segment, it's about religion, right? We're told man is mind, and woman is womb of mind. So words make people. Yeah, so that's what you're saying. Words make people. And so that's why this is important, what we're doing, right? Is that we're not going to win it in military might. We're going to win it through this that we're doing right now. Yeah. Education, engaging, radical engagement. Any other questions? Aisha.
I might have missed it in being introduced, but just reiterate or give us, how did you come to connect the existence of us in the South with your existence in apartheid, as well as, I can understand even more the connection with the Palestinians more so than the connection with us being the African American former slaves here in the South.
Everyone say proximate. Proximate. That's how it took place. But that proximation happened through pain. I came to the United States in 1990 through United Methodist Scholarship. We went to school at United Methodist School in East Tennessee, Monroe County, the poorest county of Tennessee. The county seat was Madisonville. In Madisonville is Hiwassee College. Only 500 students, 2-year school. There I was introduced to the world, because we had students there from Yemen and Jordan and China and Japan and all over the South, including African Americans. And so one weekend hanging out with, some of my African American buddies, they said, hey, African, they call me African. They said, African, let's go to the movies, man. You come to the movies with us? I couldn't have a part-time job because I had an F1 visa. You can't work, right? Come on, man, we'll treat you. We go to the movies. I'm like, free movie? I didn't tell them I didn't have money for food either, right? But we'll discover that when we get there. Went to see the movie. On our way back, had a good time talking. Blue lights. And there the meaning changes. I'm like, whoa. Almost like they're frozen. This is familiar. Right? I'm like, I'm in America. Land of the brave, land of the freedom, land of milk and honey. Right? Sheriff's deputy stops us. I said, I got this, y'all, don't worry. I got this. I'll talk, because I'll see my accent. See that I ain't from here. I can just say, I didn't know, right? I didn't know that you don't get out of your car. Right? So I jumped out of the car. There you are! That bright light comes on, right? Had me turn around. I said, officer, my accent was a little more round. Officer, everything is okay. I'm from South Africa. And he said this, that forever changed how I view myself in this United States of America. He said, I don't care who the hell you are. You just a nigger with an accent. That's the only time I use the N-word. In that moment, I was transported 20,000 miles to South Joburg because the N-word is the K-word. We were called Catholics. Whoa. I knew then that I need to get to know the story of the people who look like me. And it's going to be more than just going to movies with them or being in their rooms and cutting each other hair or being in their rooms and listening to music, right? And admiring how they talk, right? You see, because, like for me, we got a vibe. We know, you see, right? I said, nah. If you're going to make it here, you need to get to know the story of those who look like you. That's my message to every black woman. And that's what I did. Literature. My final paper was in black literature. History. My final paper was in black history. Every opportunity I had, sociology, my final paper was in racism. Every opportunity I had to do research on African Americans in this country, I did it. I watched Roots because it was banned in South Africa. I watched Eyes on the Prize because it was banned in South Africa. I started feasting on black history. I got to know the story. Because I was just called a K-word. I thought that didn't happen over here. Right? My first Christmas, I spent with a host family, a white host family. The Burgess family hosted me for Christmas on Signal Mountain outside of Chattanooga. I didn't even know what was happening in that community. A couple of years later, guess who was arrested on Signal Mountain, Tennessee? Who can tell me? Della Beck. The person who assassinated Medgar Evers. My first Christmas I spent in the same community that Della Beck was lived in. And I didn't know about it. So I say to my immigrant sisters and brothers, you better make sure. Don't just think it's cool to just buy a house somewhere because you can afford it, right? You better get to know who your neighbors are and what happened before you got there. All that community. That's how I just, then I knew I had a choice as a black immigrant, right? I could be in the black community, right? Or I could be an honorary black person in the white community. See? Mhm. And go by everything I was taught about black folk. Right? You see? It then became a deliberate decision for me. Right? You see? You know, when I had to do my internship in graduate school, in seminary, right? And I couldn't find a black United Methodist church in Dayton, Ohio, I went and did my internship at the Black Baptist Church. I said, you gotta be black. Because I studied the black church in church history. And I was like, that's the kind of church that I grew up in. You see? Right? Mm-hmm. So that's what it's about. Now, it wasn't always hunky-dory, because there's still a lot of tension between black immigrants and African Americans. Right? Because of what the colonizers done to both of us. You see? But I made a commitment that as long as I live, I want to turn that breach that was caused many years ago into a bridge. And I've come to realize he's worth the pain. Because that pain has become a path to power and new possibilities. So that's, how I've come to, hang out in the South. And I love it. I enjoy it. I'm cool with California now, y'all. But, every opportunity I get, right? And then when I went to my first homecoming game at South Carolina State, Lord have mercy. I was like, these are my kind of people, y'all. When they talk about, halftime is game time, I was wondering, I said, why are y'all going to the game? People were outside, cooking and barbecue. I said, if the game is about to start, they're like, nah, man, we go in halftime. I said, well, yeah, kid, I'm going to stay out here and eat with y'all. Lord, we went in halftime and I saw the band. I said, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Oh, yeah, you see? And then after halftime, they go back out to cooking music, because there was a kinship, right? And I'm grateful for that kinship. And so then I made a commitment that every opportunity I have, I'll be taking African Americans with me home. I'm still doing it for immersive experiences, so that just as I was introduced here, right, the African American culture, it's important for me then to take African Americans, right, and bring them home, and introduce them, not just to South African culture, right, but East Africa, West Africa, right? We're about to go to Belize, hanging out with our siblings over there. You see, because remember the ship stopped a couple of places before it got to Virginia. You see, so that's how I, got into the African American thing, and I love it. Yeah.
Just one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend us taking that African ancestry DNA test?
Yes, I do. I do. Because in the end, it's about identity. And it's about belonging, right? You see, your identity informs, your ability, which gives you a sense of your capability. It then leads you into what kind of activity you're going to be involved in, right? And all that activity then determines your destiny. That's why that's so important. Right? I have a lot of people who say to me, well, Kelvin, I don't know where I'm from on the continent. I said, I understand that. And that's painful. But there are 54 countries you can choose from right now. Just choose one. You might like the music, you might like the colors, I don't know. Right? Choose that one and study it. Understand its history. Learn its culture. Learn its music. Get to know its people. I mean, just get into it. Right? So much so that somebody asks you, where are you from? I'm from the Gambia. I'm from South Africa. Right? You know? Ancestry is a port of entry for people in that. You see, but I say to folk, you can do that, you know, because, you know, it facilitates the DNA and all of that, you know, but you got 54 countries. Some are doing good, some are not doing too good. Choose the one that's not doing good, because if you're educated, you might just adopt a school there, right? And then bring some of your colleagues with you. So I encourage that as a port of entry, but I just say to folk, you know, just figure out a way to connect, you know, and there are so many ways that one can do it right now with technology. Yes. And then I have to finish up because I have this forum I have to moderate.
Peace be unto you, brethren. Thank you so very much for coming. I'm honored and graced by the standpoint of being here. I'm on the advisory board with the museum and a former full board member. My daytime job is a physician, a doctor. And not that puts me in any point, but my question I'm going to centers on a lot of things you just stated relating toward both African ancestry. I did the DNA check, and I put the oral history and transformed my family, my identity, and my human power and ability. So that is certainly a point that we need to expand throughout. What I wanted to ask was about all of these various activities that we're talking about, whether it's the Palestinian conflict, South Africa, here in America. When you're dealing with the standpoint of people who we have a divide or a gulf, who have acquired things, property, money, it kind of creates what is called almost like a caste system where people are afraid to lose their things. I myself, I made a lot of choices in life by virtue of pushing away a lot of money. But I pushed aside those things to see the beauty in my daughters and their development, both intellectually and humanly. And the things that I could say, I'm okay with this, but I don't need this. Talk about the standpoint of the structure that goes into societies relating toward, whether in South Africa, I don't know what level of people were really involved. Like I know when I was a student at Tubular College, you know, you didn't have a pot in the pan. But the point is you had time and you had a focus to do something. And so we were into a lot of movements. But then as you go older and you start getting things, you get quiet and you get comfortable. And then you go, oh, don't say that, don't do this, don't do that. And those wind up being the gatekeepers who are holding back the others who can't hold that back. So talk about that elaborate aspect of how we should inspire all levels toward that beauty.
I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement and who I'm a part of, was privileged to be friends with one of the co-founders, Opal Tometi, who was the director of Black Lives for Just Immigration. And now work with, Dr. Malina Abdullah. We just had our people's budget meeting with the mayor, on Tuesday night, right? And the mayor is beginning to get the point around participatory budgeting process, right? Even if if you're a black mayor, right? In terms of that. But the sense, that we're getting, from that movement and the movement for Black Lives, and Makani Temba here can probably speak more to this, is that the civil human rights movement at some point, instead of maintaining the trajectory of liberation and transformation, made a choice for integration and assimilation. Right? So instead of transforming the systems that the majority used, right, to engage in exploitation, marginalization, we became powerful, right? I had to talk with a friend of mine who's running for city council right now in Los Angeles, and we have a lot of challenges with some of our electeds, they get evaluated and all that stuff. And he makes a statement on our group chat. I'm part of a group called Clergy for Black Lives. He says, it seems as if the political class is under fire. So I said, what do you mean by the political class? What you're telling me is that these folk tell us they want to help to get in, it's about upward mobility for them. I don't know, I might be wrong, because you know I'm not from here. You see? And I challenged, up until this day, I said, I've yet to work with you in your campaign, but I'm concerned that I might help you get into the political class. You see, so I think that is something that we have to examine. How much of this outdated, expired pie are we trying to get a hold of? How much of this dream that we know is a nightmare for us because it was never created for us, right? Are we still gonna pull each other down to get to? Right? You see? And South Africa is dealing with the same challenge right now. Somebody wrote a book once called The South African Dream, right? Like the American Dream. And then when I was home and I had to speak on it, I said, the American dream, for those who look like me in America, is a nightmare. I hope that your South African dream will not become a nightmare for others. Guess what? It has. Because there's now a permanent underclass in South Africa because of a regressive, trickle-down political system that cannot keep up with a progressive constitution. You see? Right. So that's why, Makani, we talk about that we are on an abolitionist, emancipatory, liberative journey. Right? You see? And it is, I'm not saying don't attain, don't earn, but if that provides you with a platform leverage, how are you leveraging your platform to advance the liberation of the future? If you got something behind your name, how are you leveraging that? You see? To serve the least of these. Because remember, the system is designed to exclude, exacerbate, and exploit. So we don't need, I don't think we don't need doorkeepers, spooked by the door. See? You know what I'm saying? You're trying to look, no. Look, if the door opened for you, figure out a way to hold it open for the next person coming up. Don't shut it real hard and say, oh, I know Kelvin's coming behind me. I better make sure I put 3 locks on this door. You might just want to get in. That's what we do. That's why it's so lonely out there for some of us. Because we hide in the baton. Instead of looking at who do we need to hand at the time. Oh. And that's really the challenge that we're having right now. I think in terms of, that's why I made a commitment to, to work with system impacted young people. Meet them in their pain, and say, you still got a purpose, man. My sister, you still got a plan. You can still make a plan here. Falling down, that have to have the last say. That have to be the last chapter of your life. You see, in terms of that. So I just encourage our folk. I'm for good success, right? And I'm not saying you got to remain poor, to appease, right? Whoever. No. I mean, in a rightful way, in a just way, and then as you do so, do that. I'm reading now Joy and Reed's book on Medgar and Murray, and she talks about how he understood that by working with wealthy black individuals, right? Because of their philanthropy, in understanding how to have that relationship and how that fuels and funds or resources, right? The work that needed to be done through the NACP and the work that needed to be done in the Delta, right? And so I'm certainly not suggesting that you become a Robin Hood, right? because that's the charity work. I'm talking about how to really, be a person that can leverage their platform and their resources for the liberation, systemically, institutionally, of our people. Because that's the work that needs to do. So I hope that's helpful.
Kind of call to action, how can we support the beloved community in South Africa as well as here? Also in mind, like I know financially, but for those that may not have it financially, how can we still be a part of the organization and support it?
I would ask, my sister to speak to how it can happen here, because it's needed. It's very much needed. For beloved communities in Africa, it's needed. I had a meeting last night at 10:30 p.m. While I was waiting at the airport to board my plane with the team in South Africa. It's in the morning there, because they're not 10 hours ahead of us. Talking about, we just finished a voter registration campaign because May the 29th is national elections in South Africa, and this is the 30th year of anniversary, and a lot of people are turned off because of what's been going on in the country. So we launched a voter registration campaign, and we're evaluating that right now, to see how we can introduce something that I've learned here, which is a voter mobilization campaign, also known as the GOTV campaign. Us as the Beloved Community Coalition, we're looking at seeing how we can prepare ourselves in the month of March and then launch a 2-month campaign of Get Out the Vote. We will need some resources to do that, and utilize young people, to stipend them, to train them, et cetera, et cetera. So I know that's in the front of our minds, you see, around it. I'm meeting with that small team again on Tuesday when I get back. No, on Monday. Before I leave, it's Tuesday morning there, to kind of begin to talk about what it used to look like. I wanted that to give you, the final thing I'll say is, and I'm going to jump ahead here. I am in conversation, with, my comrades at PI, right, to really do some kind of a deliberate connection, called from Jackson to Johannesburg. Right? How to figure out ways, to connect organizers there with organizers here, resource them, get to know, kind of do the transnational thing and all of that. And so I know, there'll be resources needed for that. And our hope is that, when that takes place, that will be the same time that we will then launch, this activity in Johannesburg.
Thank you very much. Let's see if I can, where is Shannon? Is Shannon inbound? Okay. Okay, well, we have products, I think. And we want to give our honored guest as a token of our appreciation.
These are the southern goodies?
Yes.
All right.
Hope you got a good large suitcase to stick it in there.
Yes, I do. If it lasts that long.
That's it. We have it.
Thank you so much. It's good to be home. When I visited the first time, we just felt so at home. We didn't want to leave, remember?
Yeah.
We were late for our dinner reservations. Some restaurant not too far from here that had good barbecue. That's all I remember about the restaurant. And so we walked over there. The staff of PI took us over there. But our young people, some of them are on their way to DC right now for a legislative experience. They speak fondly about this accidental place, right, that we stumbled over, thanks to Fatima at Pi, that connected us.
Candace.
Candace.
And
yes,
Halima.
Candace and Halima.
And Halima.
No, it was Candace, yeah. Uh-huh. And Halima came and supported, yes.
Yeah.
And the Pi staff was just, I mean, they were just off the chain with hospitality. And so looking forward to see how, we can continue to build together, because our fight is one fight. And as Nelson said, it's all about the completion of our collective liberation. So
Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
I just want to give a historical fact. You're standing in hollow grounds. This was the bus station, the Transcontinental Trailway bus station. Railway bus station, where you're standing at now. This is where the Freedom Riders, the ones who were coming in and getting off the bus here. As soon as they got off the bus, they were going downstairs, which was downstairs first. There was one level to the diner. They had a diner there, and it was for whites only. They get off the bus. Those that was able to get off the bus, some of them was arrested the time they got off the bus. The other ones who wasn't arrested went into the diner and sat down in order, and they were arrested right here.
Wow.
Let me add to what he just said. So one day we came here, as we, revamping this whole space, and there was this young sister that was standing by the window, and she says, I do this every day. And she was singing, lift every voice and sing. And so we asked her, we inquired, and she's a South African, working in one of the organizations here. She's out of town for this weekend, but she'll be back on Sunday. And so she's so excited about meeting you. But yes, she didn't even know about this being hollow ground.
Wow.
But, she said she just felt something.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
One last final comment, no question. I just wanted to say, as a Palestinian American, when I look at Reverend Sauls, my heart smiles because I feel hope. The words of Nelson Mandela really stick with us, that we won't be free until Palestine is free. So when I see a South African, I just want to say thank you for the solidarity. The ICJ thing is huge for us. Muslim countries did not do it. Arab countries did not do it. So our brothers and sisters are in South Africa. Thank you. Thank you.
And most of you guys probably know Lena, perhaps, but Lena is the museum deputy executive director, but she's been on the board. She was on the board before she decided to take that position for over about 12 years, and she is really. Her husband is the one that actually is a designer for the exhibit. She's the curator and designer as well, And all right. Thank you everyone for coming. Have a great rest of the day.
Please join us on Saturday if you can at 1 p.m. and at 2:30. We have another 2 gallery talks. They're going to be amazing. If you want to see Reverend Sauls again, he'll be here at 2:30 on Saturday. Bring your friends and family that you want them to meet and to see him. Please come again. Yes, inshallah. Yeah, so 1 o'clock we have an event, a gallery talk for the Oman exhibit, and then 2:30 there's another gallery talk here. Yes, sir.
All right. All right now.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, man.
Are you enjoying those girls?
Yeah.